Welcome everyone. This property we call Gibber Gunyah, which means our home among the caves. And if you go up onto the ridgeline, there's some fascinating geological formations and caves. This property adjoins Mount Yengo National Park, and Mount Yengo is just down the road about 5 k's as far as the crow flies. Mount Yengo is the most sacred space on the east coast of New South Wales. It's a flat top mesa shaped volcano, and in their mythology it's where Bayami, the creator being, came down, he made creation, and then that's where he stepped off again to go back into the dark emu in the sky. So it's a very special place, and all the tribes come here from every direction. They all had their own precincts, and they had men's business places, women's business places, and they would mingle and trade. And so all the tribes come to Yengo, to Mount Yengo. The road that you came up to get here, the Great North Road, was built by convicts. And on the way home, if you look out on your right-hand side, there's some wonderful stonework that guys in chains and irons, freezing cold in the winter and the hot summer, made. It was finished in 1835, and it's the first road built in Australia, the first road that actually linked cities. And the engineers built it with the Aboriginal trackers. So they come up the same song line that they came up to go and do ceremony at Mount Yengo. So you guys, to get here, and it doesn't matter which way you would have come, it still would have been mapped out by the Aboriginal trackers, have come up the same geological route to do ceremony in this precinct, the same as people have been doing since the last ice age, 15,000 years. So there's nowhere on the planet that has continuous ceremony for that long and people who travel a route to do ceremony, and that's exactly what you guys have done to get yourselves here today. So we're going to have some acacia ayahuasca. This is a 30-year-old vine from the first ayahuasca vine ever planted in Australia in 1984. Old mate Mark, when he was a kid at school, 10 or 12 years old, he found this book in the library about poisonous plants. In the back of it, there was these evocative pictures of South Americans blowing yopo snuff up each other's noses, and he was fascinated, indeed obsessed. And when he was at the ripe age of 17, don't quote me, but everything's ballpark, he set off, stayed with the tribe over there, and when he came back, he had all the seeds that are made, the main seeds that all the cactus growers have. It's certainly in my garden, the cactus that you use in ceremony came from seed that he brought back as a young teenager. And in his toothpaste container, there was an unrooted cutting. Over there, the tribe said, we've got 5 different ayahuasca vines, but if you're just going to take one, that's the one to take. And so in his toothbrush container, he had an unrooted cutting. Luckily, it rooted, and 30 years later, this is the result. So some of this in the brew, you'll be drinking from the first ayahuasca vine in Australia. After that, it wasn't too long after, in 1987, Terence McKenna brought a vine over to Darpan, and about the same time, John Seed's Rainforest Alliance people had saved Cosimiras, the great Ecuadorian shaman, saved his forest and his ayahuasca habitat, and Cosimira gave them a vine that's growing up near Nimbin, and I have access to that vine. You've got some of that in the brew. It's a very psychic, powerful vine, and I believe it's created a psychic bridge to the jungle, particularly of Ecuador. So back to the Aborigines and their dreaming stories. 15,000 years since the last ice age, coming to Mount Yengo. And the thing I forgot to say about Bayami, that's why I've lost my track, forgive me. Bayami also gave people ceremony and law. So not only come down, made creation, but to go with it and to live successfully within creation, ceremony and law must be practiced. So that's why people come here to do ceremony. And it's interesting, in Aboriginal Dreamtime mythology, there's no doomsday scenario. Whereas in all the religions that we follow in the West, all of them brewed up and come out of the Middle East, they all had this eschatology. I've probably got the name wrong there, but they had this end game hardwired into their books. Apocalypses and born agains and jihads and holy wars and holy war, what a contradiction of terms. And people are just living out that at the moment on the planet and hoping that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy coming true. Whereas the Aborigines, if you just practice ceremony and respected tribal law, you could live in sustainable harmony with creation for as long as possible. Now, ayahuasca comes from the Amazon. I find it very curious that of all the tens of thousands of plants in the Amazon, there's no acacias, let alone psychoactive DMT acacias. The admixture plants that they use all grow in the shadows, in the undergrowth, and it's been the same plants for however many thousands of years they've been making and taking ayahuasca for. It's always been ayahuasca 1.1. It really hasn't evolved in any game-changing way. A few years after this plant come to Australia and was ready to use, they take about 5 to 8 years to start to get ready. We realised we could use the local acacias, and we started off using the longiflora, and here on the east coast, the obtusifolia, and over in Western Australia they use the acuminata, which the First Nations people over there readily acknowledge that they use culturally. Over here they're a little bit more caged. It's initiated only knowledge, and they've got very special acacias that they're not telling anyone about. But the acacia has always been the tree of knowledge. Very curious, there's none in the Amazon. Over elsewhere in the world, Egypt and the Middle East, where all the silly books come from, they discovered DMT acacia in there. Acacias, the Acacia niloquia that grows along the Nile, and it's a thorny acacia. So even in their hieroglyphs where you see the thorny symbol, it's talking about that acacia. The whole Osiris reincarnation myth is all a metaphor for how to make DMT. Moses and the burning bush, even that's a DMT metaphor, and the burning bush is of course an acacia. The crown of thorns could have also been the Acacia niloquia, and the Romans used to build their crucifixes out of acacia. But the acacia has always been the tree of knowledge. Zosimo, the great Sufi alchemist, people sort of dribbled his secrets down, and then it surfaced again with the alchemists, European alchemists, John Dee and those sorts of people. They were looking for the philosopher's stone. And most people thought alchemy was about transmuting metals, gold, lead into gold. It was about getting the philosopher's stone, which was actually the DMT extract. And in them days that they only knew to get it from the roots, which were generally red, and so it'd be a red extract, and it's shown as red in pictures and stuff. And that turned flesh into spirit, or gave people access, rendered the veil, and you could see the mechanics behind consciousness, and in that medieval context they wanted to communicate with spirits to get them to go do their bidding and stuff, but they used the DMT because it gave you that access. Here in Australia, they've known about it for 50,000 years. There's evidence of acacia burns in caves that they've found and all the rest of it. They initiated their young blokes in vision quest sorts of things with it, and they're Kodaichi men, they're clever men, who most anthropologists acknowledge as some of the most powerful shamans, magicians, sorcerers ever. you know, we all know the story, they can point the bone at you. They could be 100 miles away and point the bone at you and you not even know, and you're going to feel the effects of it. So very curious that there was no acacia in the Amazon. And so it's when Mother Ayahuasca came here to Australia and she grew and started this new relationship with the acacia. We're starting to go towards a new paradigm, Ayahuasca 2.1. There was a engagement period where they got to know each other and we found out about the different acacias. Then the acacia revealed itself to us on a little mountain 2 hours down the road, micro-endemic to that mountain, and it gave us everything we needed. You could just get the medicine from the phyllodes, whereas at some of the other acacias you needed to hurt the tree, debark them, get the roots or whatever. That didn't stop vandals who, particularly with quiet electric chainsaws, couldn't reach the phyllodes, so they cut the tree down to get access to the thing. So the ones in the wild are definitely under threat. Luckily, thanks to our community. So this was discovered about 15 years ago, and that plant has been on that mountain for 15,000 years, just waiting for Mother Ayahuasca to come to Australia to be the new medicine for the times. And there's now more in cultivation than there is in the wild. So the plant's even more grateful because we've saved it from extinction. The one that's just over there in the garden is probably one of the best specimens around. It's even better than the ones in the wild. So I think the cultivated acacias of that species are getting better and wiser. They're living for purpose now. I mean, I held the seed in my hand and go, you're going to be in my ayahuasca and change people's lives, and plant that tree with that intention, and it meets every single person that it goes into. It's a whole thing. So every culture has had its entheogen of some sort, whether it be mead or an alcohol or hashish or opium or mushrooms. Here, we're the newest culture on the planet. These Australian colonial despoilers, ravaging this country. The worst of the worst convicts and their barbarian soldiers all come out to make a society. But now we've been given our medicine, our entheogen, ayahuasca 2.1, because they're truly married now. It's been that long since they've been together in my garden. Their roots meet in the ground. They meet in the canopy. They're saying, we're a team, we're a new thing. And so Australians have been given their entheogen, A, to enlighten ourselves, and B, to give back and thank you, or not this, sorry, give back sorry for ruining the dreaming, and we can bring the dreaming back with this medicine, because I've dosed First Nations people who've raised and adopted families and haven't known their background, and give them the acacia, and they're great elders now, and they're on the way to doing all sorts of things and got their whole download. Which is also the thing about Mount Yengo. Just like Uluru, no one's supposed to go up it. And because it's so unknown, no one does go up it. And there's only a trail halfway up anyhow. Not even fully initiated men can go up there. It's for special song gatherer people who would go up there on a vision quest sort of thing and either download a new dreaming or download the dreaming that was lost. Because what is this dreamtime business, right? When we dream all the dross that's in our unconscious, and we watch some stupid movie before we go to bed, and we end up with some mash-up of the movie and getting chased by someone we don't like. Whereas the First Nations people, they only knew nature, the bush and the kangaroos and the creation stories when they went to bed. And all they could possibly dream was the bush and the kangaroos and the creation stories. And then they wake up and they're in dreaming and there's no real separation. So when we take this dreaming medicine, the tree of knowledge with Great Mother Ayahuasca, Ayahuasca 2.1, new medicine for the times, we want to go into our own dreaming. We want to go past that dross in the subconscious. We want to go into our soul's story and its journey. And if you can surrender and relax, get rid of the fear, say, ego, piss off, tonight's not about you. Tonight is my dreaming and my story. You'll get a download. So just even get your mind out of the way. You might not get any epiphanies or instant answers to your intentions tonight, but you're getting a download to be 2.1 of you. And it'll be there in your heart space. You can access it by intuition rather than accessing it with the mind and thinking. You want to stop thinking and start feeling. And by feeling things more, you can unpack that download and be yourself 2.1, just like ayahuasca has evolved into a new thing, ayahuasca 2.1. So I'm sure I've forgotten a few things I was going to say, but without notes and that, do you have any questions?
I have one.
Yep.
And what did the indigenous people use before? Like, what would they use without the ayahuasca?
Good, excellent question. They had plants that have the beta-carboline in them, so they're self-activating. They could also do other bodily tricks. I'm not going to go into it because it's secret knowledge that I'm not going to reveal on camera. Whereas they could make it psychoactively working. Or they would just dose for that long and take that much that the liver couldn't keep up and they'd get there anyhow. But they mainly had secret acacias and things they could use to act as a monoamine blocker. And because them clever men were just on it all the time, and then they could eat their own poo, which sounds weird, but that's their own DNA medicine, and that gets them up to a whole new level of stuff. And I've dosed their secret acacia, and it's cold and heartless. It's like the universe. It blows up galaxies and planets. It doesn't care about death or anything like that. I thought that it needed a bit of Mother Ayahuasca in it to give it a little bit of heart and soul. So their medicine is really...
So when you have just acacia, is it an MAO inhibitor itself? And so
No, it's just the DMT. You need to mix it with the ayahuasca.
Which has
harmalines
right
in it. And ayahuasca has got lots of other stuff as well. It's the communication device to creation that knew how to make a universe from hydrogen and gravity and get it right first time.
And so the
And
ayahuasca allows the acacia to last longer.
And more of a dialogue with language. The DMT dissolves the veil. Once the veil's undone, you can either freak out and give me a hard time panicking all night, or you can just go in there and see what it's got to say about things. Whereas if you just have the DMT by itself, it's more just a kaleidoscope show, as people know when they smoke DMT and changa. There's not long enough to work with it, so mixing with ayahuasca gives you 4 good hours of me time with the Creator. So just to summarise, you've come up a road that people have been coming up for 15,000 years to do ceremony in the place where arguably it's been the longest continuing ceremony in mankind that we know of. It's a no-brainer. Where would you do ceremony anywhere else? To take ayahuasca with the great acacia, the tree of knowledge, and there's the most beautiful example growing out there, healthy for me, to show that that's what we need to be doing. And so let's get some intentions down and get on with the show. Thank you.